CEO of Centurica, which is a premium provider of buy-side due diligence services for online acquisitions. He's got 10 years of online entrepreneurial experience, and he happens to be a yogi. So there's a interesting conversation we're going to have today, man. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to chat.
It's interesting. I've run a lot of entrepreneurs. Surprisingly, a lot of CEOs. They've got backgrounds in things like martial arts or boxing or some type of sports, professional sports or something. But you might be the first yoga I have on here, so I'm expecting this calm, peaceful experience.
Yeah,
We're gonna have fun.
yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, can definitely have a lot. That we can get into of how, I mean, we're all on, it's all the life journey, right? And, business and health and wellness and mindset and psychology, it's all wrapped up into one journey. And so, yeah, all of the different, paths that I've been on or practices over the last, my entire career, certainly, everything affects everything. And so, yeah.
I got it. Oh, cool. Well, it's interesting that you just got a different approach for keeping things. I'm not a big believer in that whole work-life balance. I think it's all ebbs and flows. You're going to have spikes where you need to do things, and just it's like the ebbs and flows. You're going to have times you just got to buckle down and do a lot of business, and you're going to have times where you're just going to spend a lot of time with friends and family, and finding a balance that's right for you is that you know. Is right. Everybody's gonna be different, right? Some people,
Right.
it's just that they're naturally gonna be workaholics. I was through my 20s and 30s. Now I've got two littles. I've got a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I find a lot of time for them. I work a lot less hours these days.
Yeah,
So
well, life has seasons, and yeah, things change. So
cool. Let's jump into kind of how you got into this space. I always joke around and say, "Hey, you were born, and somehow you ended up on a podcast about buying and selling companies." Could you fill out the gap in between, right? So
totally. So yeah, my journey. See, started probably, yeah, I guess 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago now. Yeah, I'd say it really started when I moved to Southeast Asia. There was a really awesome community of online entrepreneurs that were living in Vietnam and Thailand, and I went over there for a business event for a community for online, for like online entrepreneurs. This was the end of 2013, and yeah, that really became, I kind of stayed. I mean, moved around a lot. Was really doing like the digital nomad thing before it was, as popular and common as it is now. And yeah, so moved over or went over for this event and really just fell into the community there, which, was, incredibly impactful and positive on my, personal development, professional development, everything. Like, that's where I really found my, community and, business partners, mentors, employees, friends. That's where I, got into yoga and mindfulness and meditation, all these things, living in Vietnam. And yeah, that's also like, it was because of that community that I found out about different e-commerce models and got into selling on Amazon. Before that, I was doing some just sort of random, marketing consulting. I mean, I was young and trying to figure things out and trying stuff. And yeah, when I moved there, maybe a year or two, kind of saw some people having success with Amazon FBA. This was in 24, maybe a year later, 2014. And this was still, I mean, looking back, quite early days of Amazon. And yeah, from there, I, with the help of, in support of friends that basically just like, broke down the business model and how to do it. And launched my first products on Amazon. That some of them hit and went well and grew that business, and then had an exit from that in 2017. And while I was building that business, I kind of realized something that I really enjoyed and had a good knack for, was really like remote teams and team building and leadership. And yeah, so when I exited the e-commerce business, I had a really solid small team that was, running my company for me. And yeah, thought other sellers might want help with, some of the things that I wanted help with, and basically just started offering services. And, fast forward, that became my other company, SellerPlex, which provides services for FBA and e-commerce sellers. That business has, I mean, it's grown over the years. The team now is, maybe around 70 globally. We've got a pretty big Amazon account management team. We've got actually I'm excited about the progress we're making. We have a really awesome supply chain department, and we're getting into like, freight brokering, and yeah, I think there's around like 20 people in our supply chain department. We have a PPC management team, we have an accounting team, and yeah, providing a number of different services for, FBA ecom primarily. And then so I guess in the spring of 2021, we, I'm pretty active and aware just in the Amazon FBA space, and knew this big aggregator boom and people were looking to buy businesses, and yeah, I had a lot of these. We actually did some projects a little bit previous around kind of like exit prep with a broker friend of mine for, some of their clients, and yeah, kind of thought that, oh, well, like due diligence is basically just kind of like the flip side of exit prep, going through the numbers, identifying, operational holes or challenges or red flags. And so yeah, we kind of put together a little scope for due diligence and started offering that. And yeah, fast forward, we really were starting to get traction, I guess, like, yeah, about a year ago, end of last summer. And those projects were really ramping up. And yeah, that kind of just got me thinking more seriously about due diligence as a, like a service category. And I was aware of Centurica, which, I was friendly with one of the co-owners. We were friends online, we had some conversations, and I knew of Centurica as just like you know the leading brand, the most known brand. And yeah, basically reached out to Chris, the former co-owner, and we hopped on a call. So it was, yeah, like almost a year ago, or I think the first kind of call about this was right around Thanksgiving. And yeah, it turned out that, like, on the call, he was interested in exiting, I was interested in buying, and that kind of, that kicked off the acquisition process. And yeah, from there, fast forward, 6 months or so, I used SBA financing, and so that was part of the what kind of made the time cadence. And yeah, I closed on the business right around the end of April, beginning of May. And so that's how I came to be the owner of Centurica. And yeah, like we were chatting about a little bit before, I mean, I had done a number of like smaller acquisitions or partnerships. I've done some like, advising for rev share type stuff. And, I thought that I did have some experience with acquisitions and this, but like, yeah, as I was saying before we recorded, it's like I've gotten definitely like a master class in, due diligence, acquisitions. I mean, man, like I have learned a ton because, that's what we do now, every day. I'm talking to people that are buying businesses, looking at businesses, we're like working on due diligence and really getting into the nuts and bolts of businesses. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible learning experience and exposing me to, a lot of, yeah, interesting new things, a lot of growth for sure.
I couldn't imagine doing due diligence on a company that I'm wanting to acquire who specializes in due diligence, right? I can see where your previous, connection and the rapport you have with the previous owner would be critical in that situation. Because if anybody could make a due diligence, look legit, it's the guys that verify it and test it for everybody else, right?
Sure. Well, yes. But that being said, also, I mean, I gotta say, I mean, so the former co-owners, Chris and Brian, they're two of like it's like stand-up guys. I mean, yeah, really, really just like high integrity, and yeah, like the process was very collaborative, throughout, and so yeah, I mean, there was a high degree of trust, between them, and also in the thing with like due diligence. I mean, yeah, like I said, I mean, I learned a ton. We did okay due diligence, but now I've learned so much, and definitely like yeah, if I'm doing due diligence on my own acquisition, would be or will be approaching things differently in the future. But yeah, but I'd say a core of it really was trust, and yeah, they were super cooperative with everything, and yeah, we're able to move the deal forward.
I was thinking about your digital nomad type of thing. There's Where is Centurica? Is Centurica like local to you, or is it remote? I mean, is it spread across the
Yeah,
world?
no, remote team. Yeah, I mean, all of our engagements are online. And yeah, we've got team North America, South America, Europe. And yeah, that's just been my background. I mean, yeah, SellerPlex, like I said, has, maybe 70, I think it's 70, 60, 70 people, globally. And, when I was living, I lived for many years in Vietnam and Thailand. I mean, I was just traveling a lot. And so that was always like a core non-negotiable of needing to have a business that allowed me to be in Asia, be in Europe, be in America. And so yeah.
It intrigues me because that's what I'm building right now. If you already know, I'm in a tiny home sitting in a redwood forest of Northern California. My companies I own are in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and other locations, right? So I do everything via Skype and via chat message and phone calls.
Mhm.
And they're physical like service businesses. Like I have a pest control company, and my guys are out spraying houses as we speak, and
Mhm.
they're so
Well,
the
well, I'll tell
ability
you.
to go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say one thing. I mean, being the CEO of Centurica puts me in a really interesting spot because we get leads, every day of people that are looking to make acquisitions and just like a lot of conversations with, investors, acquirers, and so yeah, just kind of getting a lot of exposure into different, what other people are thinking and some very successful, people that, happen to reach out and we connect with. And yeah, while all my personal experience is online business, e-commerce, agency, we do DD on SaaS businesses, website businesses. I'm very familiar with those, online models, but what I'm becoming even more interested actually is, the local service businesses, pest control, driver limo services, or, car wash, yeah, I mean, these kind of local models. I actually had a call yesterday with this guy, super interesting guy who, so he inquired about due diligence on an e-commerce business, which is really like that's really our jam. I mean, we're
Right.
really, really experienced with e-commerce, and e-commerce businesses are tricky getting cost of goods right. And that's really, area of expertise. So he reached out about that. But then we just kind of got to chatting, and he mentioned that he's done like 20 local service business acquisitions. And a lot of people talk about this, but just how there's this, coming wave of, an over inventory of, baby boomers that are retiring in the next 5 to 10 years that don't have a succession plan with these kind of, boring local businesses. And yeah, I mean, I think that's exciting. And like what you've done, like you can have a local service business, but you don't have to be local. I mean, yeah, you got to get things set up, but yeah, I mean, I think it's super cool what you've done, and that's super interesting to me.
So it's interesting is it's getting some attention, right? I was on a call yesterday with a founder, a CEO founder, not a podcast, just a regular call, and a couple of his engineers because they just wanted to pick my brain about the space, and they're a Y Combinator backed startup, and they're doing some due diligence stuff, but they're creating kind of a biz by sell, a marketplace that has a lot more services into it to help facilitate selling the mom and pop, service based
Cool.
company. And the interesting thing is they actually started with heat and air and plumbing of all things. They just picked two industries so they could really laser focus in on them. And there's a lot of interest in that. But to see Y Combinator, uh, 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 you know, uh, a rock star startup, funding type of, setup back a project like that can kind of tells you where the market is. Like there's just a lot of interest and a lot of room for this to grow, and they'll like I
Mhm.
honestly believe that they're going to expand into other markets fairly quickly. But
Mhm.
there's there's the online world which you're really extremely familiar with, and then there's this brick and mortar companies that have been around since the um,
Many
dawn of
years,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, a million years. So not a million, but we've been around since the dawn of time, and the two are kind of separate right now. And I really
Mhm.
think that that's one of the biggest advantages our generation has. I'm a little older than you, but still got a lot of computer background. Is we can take a lot of those companies that were, brick and mortar, you know, and bring them into the digital age. And there's a
Sure.
huge opportunity for growth in that. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the due diligence. What separates due diligence? Like if I was going to buy another pest control company, there's a certain list of things I need, but I wouldn't. And I'm a computer nerd enough. I know how to transfer the domain and stuff, but I wouldn't be looking at a lot of the stuff you need to look at, like,
Mhm.
um, like where their traffic's coming from, where the address, where their
Sure.
campaigns are. There's a lot of stuff that makes online business due diligence different than
Mhm.
just buying a brick and mortar, heat and air company or pest control company or something.
Totally. So yeah, with due diligence, the way kind of break it down, I'd say is three main buckets. You've got the financial bucket, you've got operational, and you've got commercial. And so really maybe like the core, I'd say, of any due diligence is on the financial. So, verifying that the numbers that you're presented are what the seller says they are, which is pretty big. That's like the value of the business. And so, on the financial side, that is yeah, part of our core competency. I've had to build a team of audit accountants, and this was like, again, part of my learning curve of just like really understanding what is needed to do financial diligence, which is and we're a premium service, and so we do like a full P&L rebuild, full OpEx verification. We can do quality of earnings, and like I'm not an accountant, but I've had to now build an accounting department that like can fulfill these P&L rebuilds, and so that's really the core of the financial side is, so you have the P&L that the seller provides, you have your LOI, you have your valuation, and then we're going to rebuild that P&L going into all the, direct sources. So, we'll get access to, if it's an e-commerce business, the Amazon account, the Shopify account, whatever other marketplaces, if they're selling on Stripe, we'll get access to Stripe, PayPal, all these things to really get, direct eyeballs on anything where money is coming, in or out. So we get access to the, all the platforms, as well as, accounting software, bank statements, to again rebuild the P&L from scratch to then verify and match versus what the seller had. So let's say you're buying a business and it's the seller says it does $1 million profit, and we go through we rebuild the P&L and we say, oh well, like things that they categorize as add backs or some of these expenses that they, this or that, we find additional things in there. We say, hey, we actually found the profit is 900K, not $1 million. And now, you as the buyer, that's leverage for you. And you use that to say like, hey, well, I'm buying it at 3X or 3, whatever. And if the profit numbers that we find are lower, that becomes, insight for you, and potentially, negotiating leverage to, get the deal price lower or a different structure. So there's the financial side, which is like, that's really the core of, pretty much all of our engagements is the financial diligence. And then in addition to that, we've got operational diligence and commercial diligence. So operational diligence, you can think of as, that's like looking inward into the company, looking for, red flags, things that, could be break unsustainable skeletons in the closet, depending on, the business model. Are there black hat tactics, this or that? As well as starting to get insight into like the value creation plan. And so what I mean by that is like, we have some like HR and ops diligence where we'll go in, we interview the team and kind of put together a report on like, okay, so we have really strong background as well with like hiring and HR. And so we'll come in, interview the team, and like, all right, look, like, without the owner is currently filling these key roles, and every sim or everyone's going to say, oh, there's a totally passive owner and can run without them. And so but you want to check and verify that. And so that's a lot of like on the ops side, as we can come in, talk to the team, rebuild the org chart, make recommendations. Hey, like we think that you could probably save 20-30% if you organized it this way and kind of have this better structure. A lot of businesses, as and your listeners know, are pretty messy, and so that's like that's often a lever that you can pull on. And So yeah, that kind of go into operational, looking into the business. And then you've got like the market diligence, commercial diligence, which is like kind of looking at like the market, you know, like, and that's more like outward looking. And so, where's like the market as a whole going? How is this company positioned within the category? What are competitors doing? And yeah, to kind of give you a picture of like what the growth could look like moving forward, as well as like that's where you can kind of like start looking at different marketing channels, or what can you layer on with your experience to to have success with the future of the business. And so yeah, the three main buckets: financial, which is all about verifying and rebuilding the P&L; operational, which is like looking inside the company, what are skeletons, red flags, as well as cost optimization; and market or commercial diligence, looking at the overall industry, the market, where's it going, how's this company positioned, what are other people doing. And there you have it.
It's interesting you brought up the black hat thing. I was either looking at your profile, or like I went down a rabbit hole after I was doing the research on you early this morning, when I always look in the morning when I get up and get the kids off to school. Like who do I have on my calendar today? And then I just kind of go down this rabbit hole of who are they and what they're working on. And I don't know if it's posted directly to your LinkedIn, or it was one of the rabbit hole items I strayed off of. My ADD takes me on adventures all the time. But there's a thing inside of the podcast community right now where people are faking numbers by doing something inside of gaming communities and games, where people get credits and points for to buy items inside of the games if they click a link to download your podcast, right?
Cool.
So now their downloads look like their numbers are shooting through the roof, and they got a 2-second listen time because nobody's really listening to this stuff. That happens, that was happening a lot in the AdSense space and other stuff. People were doing things to fake numbers and make things look. I used to flip websites back. Oh, I don't even want to date myself, but before it was cool. And I got burned a couple of times because people got really good at faking stuff. At first, it was just photoshopping reports, and then I got got into where I want to log into your accounts, or I'm not going to buy the thing. And then they started having nefarious, or I think that's the right word I want to use, like bad traffic sources, and there was just untraceable from my side of point of view. So the fact you guys are looking for that and looking to see is everything they say legit and on the level, and it's all done in a way that's repeatable and sustainable. That's impressive, because you can get burned pretty quick. I mean, I acquired one. It wasn't a big purchase, 30 something grand, that I thought I was in a flip, and within 2 or 3 days, I was going to clean it up. You had a new user interface. I thought it had a great customer base. It was just kind of ugly. And that's kind of what I did. I had a design team that would make things usable. I'd buy something that had great functionality, just wasn't really aesthetically pleasing, and kind of clunky, and then we would go through and make it cool to use, and then turn around and put a new face on it, drive some pay-per-click advertisement to it, drive the numbers up, share all that with somebody else, and sell it, and double our money. Within a week, within 5 or 6 days, my traffic went from I think it was 20 something thousand page views per month to 12. I'm not talking 1,200, 12. My team was the only people looking at the website, and it was all made up. And I logged into those. I logged into their analytics. I seen their page stuff. I seen their. I mean, they were using an old tool that I used to love. I think they targeted me because they knew what I liked. Right? I actually I used to like this click path analysis tool that would run inside of Pearl or whatever we built these websites on, and you could see where people went inside of the website, how long they stayed on particular pages and stuff like that. And the reason for that for us was we were looking for long paths to high profit margin products. So if somebody took 15 clicks to get to a product that sells pretty good, moving that to the front page would drive our numbers up because people were looking for it. Anyway, they were using all the tools I wanted them to use. I bought the thing, and all of a sudden it just kind of blew up and crashed. So the fact that you're looking for that's cool. What about in the brick and mortar space, we look for things like the legal side of due diligence. Are they HR compliant? Do they have any pending lawsuits? Have they been sued in the past? Especially like for the pest control, I have to really, like, when I'm looking to buy other companies like that, I have to look at, like, are they following the rules? Do they have their
Mhm.
records? You know, have they been sued? Did they, they have any damages like that? Or, there's a lot of things you got to look for. If they got more than 50 employees, are they following the protocol changes? Like, do they had they held workers' comp like they're supposed to? They had the, you know, any sexual harassment claims, or do you guys get into any of the?
Yeah, we do a bit. So, we're I guess this would probably fall into another bucket of like legal DD.
Mm.
And we do, I mean, one, we're working with, overwhelmingly they're online businesses. And so, some are, some of that's like more or less relevant than others. But yeah, like, we run through, we subscribe to a bunch of different databases to kind of run through like, personal background checks, business background checks, have there been any, yeah, has anything kind of, come up against the business or the person. So yeah, so we do a little bit of that. But yeah, like legal DD, I wouldn't say is our specialty. But that being said, one thing that I really, that I've been really working on with Centurica is to be able to really just solve problems for our clients. And so, we've got a network of, lawyers that we work with and this. And so, so yeah, I was talking to, a prospect last week, and, he needed some additional, contract review verification. And like, I was able to, yeah, I mean, the lawyer that, our lawyer that we work with, was able to come in and look over to kind of verify stuff for them. And yeah, and that's also an area that is, I mean, I've noticed with the due diligence industry, a lot of service providers are very siloed. So like, all right, look, we do, financial diligence, that's it. Oh, we do tech diligence, that's it. Oh, we do legal diligence, that's it. And yeah, that's an area that I want to, like, my background with service businesses, we try to say yes to what clients need, and be of service and help them solve their problems. And so yeah, like I definitely try to, where possible, be accommodating. And even if it's out of scope, well, not out of scope, but we can scope additional areas that, even if it's like, a little bit outside of the normal scope, yeah, do what we can to help the clients out.
What is your vision with Centurica? Where do you see it going? Where do you want to take it?
Yeah, good question. And that's something that I'm honestly thinking a lot about lately. So I'm about 5 months in, and yeah, I mean, I'll say the first 5 months, it's been at times rocky. And the biggest thing and the first thing was always installing my own team. And so this was something, again, that I knew coming into the acquisition, but really underestimated was, what kind of team and infrastructure was needed to, fulfill the service at the level that, Centurica is known for. And, we're known for, premium, high quality. And so yeah, like the number one objective since day one was like, okay, continuity of work, getting in the right team to do the work. And yeah, like I'll be honest, a couple months ago, I mean, there were some people that I hired that didn't work out that I thought were this. I mean, I mentioned a big learning curve just of what, what even is needed to do the work. And and so yeah, fast forward now, we've actually, I mean, the team has really come together, have an amazing lead accountant slash ops woman who, former Deloitte, worked at HSBC, a very like high level, accountant, auditor. And we've got, auditors under her now. And yeah, that was always like step one, like people come to us for due diligence. We got to be able to fulfill that. And like I said, I mean, the other part of the scope, the operational, the commercial, like that's stuff that I get excited about. And I think is really interesting, kind of similar to you, but the core of the deliverables, like I said, are these P&L rebuilds. And like, that's what, we got to be able to deliver those. And yeah, now we're at a place, I mean, again, have good people in place to, confident in our abilities to deliver that. And actually and I mean, one of the former owners, Brian, who was the main kind of ops guy previously, amazing guy, really great guy, very talented. But yeah, but I think the current team is actually, it's like, higher level accountants. I mean, Brian, I mean, he's done a million of these, very, very smart, very, very capable, but he's also not a senior accountant. And like now we do have a senior accountant. And so, some of the accounting work has been improved. And I mean, I just, like I said, I'm not an accountant, but I'm learning about, accounting kind of standards and this. And so yeah, feel really good about, getting that in place. And then, yeah, now thinking of the vision moving forward, that was always getting that team in place was always like the first objective, and couldn't even think about anything else until that was completed. And, still a work in progress, but again, like it's in a, good spot or much better spot. So yeah, then back to the vision. And that's a lot of, what I'm thinking about. If we zoom out, people that are interested in making acquisitions or investors, there's a that customer journey kind of looks like there's pre LOI, you're looking for a business to buy, then you find one, you have an LOI, that's when due diligence kicks in. Then post LOI or post close, you've got integration, scaling, growth. And yeah, I think the vision is for Centurica to be able to expand and provide value to people at wherever they are in that continuum. And one of the challenges with due diligence is it's only relevant when you have a business that you are have under LOI. I mean, there's a little bit of pre LOI DD, and there's is some sell side DD, but Centurica focuses on buy side. And yeah, so like it's you're not really able to, you can only market that so much. I mean, it's like being in front of people and having awareness, but there's no way that I could convince you right now to hire us for due diligence unless you have a business that you're already looking at. And so in terms of direction and vision, thinking a lot about expanding into deal generation, deal flow. That's a big thing, and there's other people that do that, and people ask us for it. We work with some aggregators, some funds, as well as just individuals that like have a bunch of money, they're trying to invest it and trying to find acquisition opportunities. And so yeah, if we develop that capability, I think that could open up new and different opportunities. So yeah, I mean, that's something I'm thinking about, as well as yeah, just kind of other things that we can kind of grow and expand into. I think there could be some different community plays. Centurica's got a strong brand. It's got a decent email list. It's got like a good reputation, and yeah, that's really like what I've been trying to do, is just getting on more calls with our clients and prospects, and finding out what they need and what would be useful, so we can build different, whether it's deal generation products or services, or whether it's communities, masterminds for people to collaborate on deals and bring deals, or whether it's courses around how to do these things. And so yeah, I mean, think about a lot of things. Yeah, it's kind of like where my head's at for what the vision is.
I like that, where your head's at. We did a roll up last year. We were working on marketing agencies, and in a matter of less than, probably, I want to say, close to 200 days, we interviewed, acquisition interviewed, spent hours with over 200, I think it was 216 or some weird number, marketing agencies. And the interesting thing is, most of these guys are, marketing agencies, are all B2B. A lot of them focus on, other stuff, but them themselves, they're marketing to other businesses. And they're marketing agencies. A lot of these guys have, like myself, I have an MBA in marketing. A lot of these guys have MBAs, and some of them have PhDs in marketing. And the top three problems they all had, like out of 200 of them, were finding the right team members was one, always, right? Like marketing and getting the right team members, which you think would be a marketing task, right? Like, setting out job descriptions and attracting people. And the other one was lead generation, especially during COVID, right? You wouldn't think that marketing agencies have a lead generation issue. Now, there were lead generation companies we interviewed, and we started interviewing, like really keying in on that, because I was like, we need some of these people for this project we got, because the rest of our guys are having trouble with this. So, yeah, it's interesting that that's a big concern, for all those agencies. But it's also interesting that you look at it and go, best way to figure out lead generation is go find somebody that's already doing it and buy them.
Right. Well, that's also, like where I've just been super, since taking over Centurica, I've just been like, all in on just like M&A. And like I've been saying, conversations every day with people that are in M&A. And I've just been really, even more immersed in the M&A community and connecting with, with people like yourself that are, in the M&A ecosystem. And, and yeah, like something I've been thinking about. I was at an event a couple weeks ago with these like really, really smart, successful entrepreneur M&A guys, and yeah, just kind of saying that like kind of the mindset of using M&A to solve whatever your problem or challenge is. And so, oh hey, like we have a problem. Okay, we're really good at delivery, but we're not good at sales. Okay, well, like, could you acquire a business that is good at sales? Or like, we don't have enough leads. Oh, could you acquire a business that you could then cross sell into? Or like, oh, we're good at this, but we don't have good ops. Oh, could you acquire a business that is strong in this? And yeah, like that's a lot of what really excites me. I mean, I think I think there's a lot of businesses that, I mean, one, like people don't really think about this stuff. I mean, maybe, your listeners are listening to an M&A podcast, so they're, more familiar with these things, but your average entrepreneur doesn't know about some of these different strategies, whether as, that like directions they could go in with their business or how they could fit into other businesses, or, and also kind of like what you were saying with a lot of these marketing agencies. And I think is typical of a lot of businesses is people get into it, they're good at doing the work. And even if it's like a marketing agency, maybe they're really good at, SEO or, copywriting or this, but that doesn't mean that they're good at like strategically building a business and, hiring and HR and leadership and, all the team stuff and scaling. And so yeah, I think there's opportunities to like, find and engage, some of these people that, got into it because they're really good at what they do, but they're struggling in some of the other areas. There's opportunities to, collaborate or merge or acquire, as well as taking those skills into any business and coming, your pest business. I'm sure you've thought of different ways to grow via acquisition and like roll up additional pet businesses or pest businesses, or like, oh, what other services do they see, do these same people need? And yeah, like, that's, my eyes have really been opened or continuing to, be opened as I get exposed to more of these things that, again, I think a lot of people haven't thought of or just aren't as exposed to.
Yeah, on that pest control, I've actually did a branch out and started looking for home cleaning services. Like, who
Mm-hmm.
finds more bugs in a house than the cleaning lady, right? The
Mm-hmm.
handyman services. A lot of reasons. A lot of the best ways to get rid of bugs in a house is exclusion, to keep them from coming in. So somebody can go replace door thresholds and close gaps and fill, caulk windows and stuff like that to seal up a house properly. That'll slow a lot of this stuff down. Water sources like handyman, anytime there's water touching the ground around a house, it attracts termites and ants and other stuff. They need a water source. So having a handyman that can identify those, crawl those, or a plumbing's a licensing thing. So a licensed service, and after doing the pest control and having to go get all those licenses, I'll probably avoid that one. But yeah,
Well,
so
that's
but
let's say on that. I mean, on the licenses, I know there's other strategies of like, certain businesses that need certain licenses in order to operate. You could go on and acquire a business that has these licenses that then, opens up doors for, they have licenses or they're, approved vendors for certain, whether it's government or some big businesses that kind of give you a foot in the door to, expand services. But yeah, there's a lot of different assets that that you can acquire, or yeah, and whether it's if it's a pain for you to do it yourself, yeah, maybe you can just acquire
do
it.
you guys? I noticed you had another thing that was that started, or something that started off as Amazon, right? FBA, but do you guys also take a look at somebody's got a product they're 100% on Amazon, which scares me. I won't buy something like that because I don't buy anything where there's a single entity that can
Mm.
smack me and destroy my day, right? So so I don't buy anything that's like I'm looking for content companies, B2B content, because of the podcast and other stuff. I'd love to have writers on staff and producing other content that supports this and branches out into the B2B content space. But I don't want anything that's 100% revenue generated based off of Google Ads or something like that. No AdSense type of sites. No, it needs to be a broad mix. Just because I'm just not into I've got one entity that can just smack me and ruin my day. I've had that experience, and I've had some really good friends that were doing good money back in the day with made for AdSense type of websites where they just produce content. They had, sites all over it, and then they got re-indexed, went from page 1 to page 10, and now they're out there, like, do I flip burgers or do I try to get back in the tech world? What do I do? I'm not making enough money to support my team, and they had to lay off team members type of thing. So, tell the whole story to get to one question. The question is do you guys look at it and say, okay, wait a second here, you guys are doing Amazon, but this product would really do good on Spotify. What am I looking for? Shopify. That's the one. It would good in this market space. Or hey, like there's people killing it in one of these other marketplaces. Here's an opportunity. Do you guys help identify in that due diligence? Because like part of what I do in due diligence, and I know a lot of other guys in this acquisition opportunities, where's the area for growth? Do you guys take a look at some of that and make suggestions or?
It depends on the scope. We certainly can, and that would be into, more kind of like, market analysis and opportunity analysis, which, we can do. And yeah, a lot of that, looking at different marketing channels and what they're currently doing. And yeah, making, recommendations for, ways they can expand and ways they can grow, whether that's, expanding their product portfolio, expanding into new channels. So yeah, can for sure.
Okay. So what are the red flags inside of a due diligence? I noticed you were on a panel already recently. I'm looking at your LinkedIn. Part of my research, you were either on a panel or about to join a panel that talks about red flags and due diligence. So what do you think what are the biggest things that like should set you back and make you take another look at something?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, thinking about this, if I'm buying a company now, and looking at what are some of the big red flags? One is going to be key person risk, and this was a big thing that I dealt with. I mean, I knew that I was dealing with it with the Centurica acquisition, but just really underestimated how big of a challenge it would be. And like I said, it was messy, but fortunately, much better now. But yeah, so key person risk is really like, is that, the owner or certain people in the business, just like, the business really dependent on these people to, to run. And maybe the owner is the specialist who's doing the work. Maybe the owner has the relationships where that's where the leads and the opportunities come from. And yeah, or, certain key people in the business that are just needed, that if they left, the business would be really struggling. So that's, really something to look at. And these are things that are going to be more, broadly applicable to businesses. We can go into like specifics around, e-commerce, but yeah, broadly speaking. So yeah, key person, looking at, margin and, revenue trends. And so looking at a business and this is applicable to any model, what are the revenue trends showing? Is it growing? Is it, declining? And margins, are margins going up, going down? Cost of acquisition, are your advertising costs going up? Is your, cost to acquire a new customer going up relative to the price? So we look at this a lot with, e-commerce. It's applicable to every business, but yeah, with e-commerce especially for businesses that sell on Amazon, because Amazon is, they're always increasing fees. A lot of times we see businesses where, the Amazon fees are going up, the PPC fees are going up, and the product price is actually going down because competitors are coming in. They need to price to stay competitive. And so yeah, looking at those like revenue trends, margin trends, that'd be a really big potential red flag. And yeah, something else that, I would definitely, I mean, super important for, for any acquisition is going to be, this is more on the commercial or market side, is really like, customer concentration, customer demographics. If the business is serving, e-commerce sellers, for example, like, okay, what's the future of e-commerce look like? Is it going up? Is it going down? Especially now in the uncertainty around the economy, like, is the, is the whatever market it's serving, how's that going to fare in a potential recession, or, if, household spending kind of decreases. And so yeah, really, being aware of what, analysis of the market that the business serves, as well as like customer concentration within that market. And so, oh, like, is it, heavily reliant on, 3 big, repeat buyers or clients? And, oh, if you lost one of them, would the business be down, 30% or, or whatnot? But yeah, all kind of in the like customer concentration, space, which, yeah, I think like, so yeah, those 3 things for, really broadly applicable to any acquisition, key person risk, margin and revenue trends, as well as customer concentration. I would take weigh those heavily in whatever you're acquiring.
I would. I know you mentioned in the side of that, but I'd really also really be concerned with where are the customers coming from, like where not cost of acquisition, but acquisition source. I know somebody who I don't want to. He's in networking events with me, and I don't want to say where, just because there's sometimes that group's small and people know who I'm talking about. But he's trying to sell an online commerce business right now, and I know why he's trying to sell it. He was doing really well with Google paid ads, like PPC, and Google made some changes, and then he was able to do really well with Facebook, right, and do Facebook pay per click, and then Facebook just kind of changed their stuff, and he's struggling inside of there. And his profit margins like really tight. Now he's doing really well with Twitter. TikTok ads. And I mean, he's killing it with TikTok. TikTok's kind of the new hot thing right now. But he says, like, when TikTok's gone, where do I go? So he's trying to sell it because, like, right now, it looks good. Everything's going good. He's had this kind of up and down, but it's at one of the ups now, and he's going to get more for it. And if he sells it before TikTok figures out what, YouTube figured out what, Google pay-per-clicks figured out what Facebook figured out, and he gets squeezed by TikTok, he doesn't know where he's going next, right?
Sure. Yeah, and
Like,
to your point, I mean, totally, like, being aware of the acquisition channels. I mean, yeah, are they sustainable? Is the business able to, does it just have like predictable channels that it can, tap into for, their marketing or sales? And yeah, I mean, that's something that I certainly would be, prioritizing. And it's like, oh, is it all word of mouth? Word of mouth is great, but it's unpredictable. If you don't really know where the sales and leads are coming from, it can be tricky.
especially if you're buying something. If it's word of mouth, it'd be like buying something from me. I've got 90 plus thousand followers on different channels and stuff. If I'm using my followers to do it and you buy it, I'm not
Totally.
giving you my followers, right? They're following my name on this. A lot of these things are not following the company side of it. So that would be a difficult thing to do. So, anything I build, I make sure, like even this podcast, you notice I didn't introduce myself. I introduced you, right? I purposely don't brand it around me. I'm the host now, but at some point there might be a co-host or a substitute host. The point is get good people on here and get the content out there, and it be irrelevant to who I am. So if someday I do decide to sell this, it's sellable. Um, so kind of circle back around to that the side of the due diligence and the red flags and stuff. Um, what's the biggest thing? Like if you seen if there a lot of that stuff can be adjusted and you can figure for it and you can go, okay, I already own an audience and I'm buying this to sell your product to my audience. A lot of that. Is there anything aside of that? Like, look, if you see this, you run.
Um, So like, question is like just looking at, I mean, any business, if you see this, you run. I mean, I guess I'd say as an acquirer is going to be, if you have any sense that the seller is, being deceiving, like that is
For me,
something to run. It doesn't matter what the business is, how it's doing. If you can't trust the seller, then I mean, I think you got to stay away.
for me, it's that black hat stuff. If you go, hey man, check out this little trick I've got where we're driving 25% of our revenue for this thing over here, and you look at that and like it's immoral, illegal, or it shouldn't be done. It's you found a way to get around somebody's set of rules, Google's, Facebook's, even Amazon's. If you're getting around the rules to get yourself done, get to make a big portion of your that's just a big red flag for me. Number one, that you would do that, and number two, that they're eventually going to figure it out, right? So
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that, yeah. I mean, black hat, right. If you, I mean, the thing is though, I mean, yeah, it depends. There's black hat, there's gray hat. And the thing is also that you got to keep in mind with, every acquisition has risk. And
Hmm.
so really it's not about finding a business that has no risk. It's about, you know, being aware of the risk and then being comfortable with that and having, being comfortable with the risk and, with your awareness of what it is and how you could possibly mitigate it or grow from it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if you see some like super black hat, dirty stuff, that probably a red flag as well.
Right. I don't even know what would be black hat inside of a e-com store.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's review manipulation. That's a big thing on Amazon, but that's also it's more gray. A lot of these things as well. And if it's a SEO site or they do SEO, there's not like a lot of these things. It's not a clear line of what's black or gray or this. Really, but like if you see anything that's like indicative of fraud, that would be that would be a red flag, and yeah, something you want to stay away from.
Right after I did a couple of mentors courses back 2 years ago when I first decided I want to go down this path. And right in the middle of those courses, a guy came to me wanting to sell a business, and I was in one of his kind of mastermind types of things. He goes, "Hey, I'll sell you this e-commerce business I have." And his model was like, I thought about the model and then I shut it down because I used to be a domainer, if you know what that is. I bought hundreds and hundreds of domains. I
Mhm.
still own over 100 or so domains. But one of the ideas I had is like, what if I fired up all domains? I spread them across 15, 20, 30 different hosts about, I put everything on its own IP, and then I write articles and I support the main one. So I get my own I could just basically have my own backlinks and cross-link channels. And the problem with that is once it's detected, you're just shut down. And that's what he had built. And that's what he was trying to sell me. He had, 200 domains. Uh, they're all writing articles. He's putting on articles on all of them. They were all pointing back to his e-commerce type of solution products, stuff like that. And that's his only source of traffic. He had no pay per click, no. He said that's all organic. I was like, no, that's not organic, right? You own every one of those domains. Like if you look at 90%, I wouldn't say 90, a large percentage of all his backlinks were things that he created and built. And he's like, it's undetectable. They'll never figure it out. I was like, it's Google, man.
Mhm.
Don't call anything undetectable because it's not undetectable. Somebody will figure it out.
Sure.
Cool. I've asked you a lot of questions, man. One of the favorite things I like to do is like kind of put you in the spot in this right here. I've asked you a lot of questions today. What should I have asked? What did we miss, man?
Well, I think we covered a lot. Talked a lot about due diligence, what to look for, red flags. Yeah, some. I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but maybe some opportunities that I think are exciting, or we're seeing. In one big thing that I'm thinking a lot about is really, it's like strategic acquisitions for to grow existing businesses. And so I'm sure a lot of your audience is thinking about this, or maybe they're existing business owners and exploring M&A for growth. But I think there's a big opportunity for seven-figure businesses, multi-seven-figure businesses to double by leveraging M&A. And you can get deal structure is a whole other thing, and it's you probably can do it with way more or way less out of pocket than you're thinking. But that's something I'm really interested in, and I'm exploring additional acquisitions for my other agencies, and things that we can bolt on to really supercharge growth. And yeah, that's like again, I'm sure a lot of your audience is thinking about that already, but I think that's a big opportunity for existing businesses that have infrastructure to double via acquisition.
Yeah, I seen you made a post that saying you're interested in acquiring, merging, or partnering with, agencies in the e-commerce space. Are you talking about marketing agencies, or what are you talking about agencies in the e-commerce space?
Yeah, I mean, that was really inspired by. I mentioned I was at an event recently, and just thinking a lot about M&A and moves to make, and yeah, my company SellerPlex has, I mean, between SellerPlex and Centurica, I've got a lot of infrastructure, and so we've got a great recruiting department. We've got two full-time people that, I mean, are great. That's a real core competency of ours that solves a lot of problems for service businesses. We're really good at hiring. We've got a great supply chain department. We've got a great Amazon account department. We've got a great accounting department. Centurica. We've got a great due diligence team. And yeah, that was sort of a offer looking for anyone interested in collaborating. And I'd make the offer out to any listeners now or your audience. I'm just always looking for open to ways to collaborate, win-wins, and just trying to look at what infrastructure I have that can be leveraged. And I actually was pretty happily surprised by the people that reached out from that post. And I've been having a number of conversations that, who knows where it'll lead. But yeah, it's opened up some interesting conversations with other agencies that, there could be some collaboration that I think would be good for us both.
Is SellerPlex one of your main lead generations for Centurica? I mean, it looks like it could be, right?
Actually, it's more the other way around. Centurica
Yeah.
has the stronger brand, has more leads, is like broadly speaking more well known. So yeah, but some of the leads that come in on Centurica, we work on DD, and then if they have an e-commerce business and they want help with other things,
Are you familiar with the sitcom How I Met Your Mother? There's a little thing they play all thing. Have you met my friend Ted? Right. I call that's my introduction to cross selling. Now is like if you're in Centurica, you could be like, hey, you just bought this. Have you met my friend SellerPlex? Right.
Yeah, totally. I mean, my experience with service businesses, I think the number one is always just, do good work, build a good relationship. And if you do that, then that opens up additional ways to work together and collaborate. And so that's really why the number one always is just do good work. Solve problems, build a relationship. And yeah, that can open up different ways to, collaborate down the road.
And your biggest obstacle to making the sale is already conquered, right? Anybody who's using Centurica already has the concept of having an outside service helping them, right? A lot of these solar entrepreneurs, a lot of these guys are just do it yourself guys or whatever, and they're gonna, I'll figure this out, or I'm gonna hire a single guy to figure this out. But to hire a third party service and know that that's the right way to go, there's
Well, I mean, yes, and I mean, really, if you're doing, unless you're an audit accountant, you're not doing that yourself. I mean, a lot of the PE firms, they have their own in-house teams that are doing it, but it's that's a pretty core thing that, I mean, any experienced acquirer is, they're going to do good financial diligence. And it's really, it's a question of in-house. If they have the in-house capability, then they'll probably be using that.
Yeah.
But if not, it's you gotta, unless you're an audit accountant and want to rebuild the P&L yourself, which is a huge pain, then you got to find outside help.
When we first started this, I actually had a lady who was semi-retired who was a forensic accountant. It's another word for audit accountant, but a forensic accountant. And that's what she would come in, and I was like, usually it was like, hey, I can't make sense of this. Can you figure out what's going on with this? And then, she would look at it and put it back together for me, hand it back over. But she's doing something else now. So when I'm looking for my next one, I'm going to be looking for like a forensic accountant, skilled team member. The big roll-up thing we had 2 guys on our team who are accountants by previous trades and have that level of skill. But as I'm looking at what my next venture is, I'm certainly going to be the guy who has to go, okay, I either got to find somebody that can pull this together. I've got a guy that was on the show who does it for small companies, really reasonably priced. But so I'm going to use him to start with. But
or you can always partner with Centurica.
Yeah, if it's online, absolutely. I don't, for some reason, I'm kind of in this brick and mortar space. Funny thing is I come from the tech industry, right? A lot of my background, defense contracting, but and some of the early website type of stuff. Back in the day when Excite.com was head to head with Yahoo, I was the senior director of operations. Basically, all the server admins and nerds worked for me at Excite, so I helped run the Excite.com portal. So. I've got the background there, but it's 20 plus years removed. So I say that I'm open to that. And if I definitely was on the e-commerce space, or if you guys ever go into the brick and mortar space, I would certainly entertain that.
Sure,
Absolutely.
sure. And one thing I'll just say is that we definitely I mean we're great with e-commerce. I'd say e-commerce is probably our that's really our bread and butter. But the department we have an audit accounting department, and like they, the process is so what makes e-commerce tricky is cost of goods, and like we understand cost of goods, we understand supply chain. So that's something that, yeah, I mean, is particularly, a tricky component of e-commerce, financial diligence. But the same method applies, and so we have a strong team of, they're audit accountants, and so we know how to do P&L rebuilds that like that. Yeah, e-commerce, I'd say, is particularly difficult versus a brick and mortar business. I'm sure there are some nuance, but yeah, fairly straightforward, I think, versus e-commerce, which again is like particularly tricky. So
Yeah. Well, let's before we get too far here. I mean, we're already past the hour mark. Let's make sure people know how to reach out to you. I have some stuff in the show notes, but how do you prefer people if they want to talk to you about maybe a future acquisition or maybe needing some due diligence support? What
yeah.
are the proper ways? What are the channels you want people to reach out to you?
Yeah, totally. So again, my name is Nate Ginsburg, at Nate Ginsburg on all the social. Yeah, find me on Instagram, find me on LinkedIn, find me on Facebook. I'm not yet that active on Twitter, but I think that's inspired by, you and other people probably coming. And yeah, really like looking to, yeah, anyone who like found any of this interesting, have any ideas of how we can collaborate, anything that, my resources and infrastructure can do to support. Yeah, would love to have a chat and see if there's anything we can do together.
Cool. Three takeaways. If you could pick three things from the show today that you want people to remember you by and want to like if they didn't remember anything else, what would you have people remember you?
I mean, I think like the three cores. Well, okay, so the three parts of diligence: financial, operational, commercial. Um, the red flags of key person risk, customer concentration, revenue and margin trends, and that, yeah, I think like using acquisitions to creatively solve your problems, whatever it is. I don't know if that was three things or seven things, but stuff for people to think about.
We got the spirit of it down. So, and I love the concept of solving problems through acquisition. If you look at the big boys, that's what they've been. Google's been doing it forever, right?
Right.
Google will buy a company and spend millions, if not billions, of dollars just to get the right engineers, from them to work. You know, it's interesting. We've seen it over and over again where they've bought companies, and within 6 months, the lead engineer that built that company is working on one of Google's projects, and and they either divest of that, it's they do a acqui-hire, I think is the nickname they've got it now.
Sure.
They're acquiring companies to hire key people. So they're solving the problem of I really need an engineer that specializes in this, and right now he's parked over here. I'll just buy the company because he won't move.
Yeah,
Right.
that's definitely a strategy.
Awesome. I appreciated having you on here, hang out for a few minutes after the show. I think that's the show for the day for you guys out there. I appreciate you being here, and that's the show.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.